In game as in life, I think it's fair to say we all have things that we know we should be doing that we're just not doing. And one of the biggest reasons I hear, or maybe biggest excuses I hear over and over and over again for this, is that you want a really good or even perfect scenario before you get started. This is so common, in fact, that it's like the cliche of, you want all the lights to be green before you even leave your driveway in the morning. And again, it's very, very common. I'm going to explain to you kind of why this happens. I'm going to explain to you like how to go about changing it. And I'm actually going to even give you an exercise specifically how you can change it right now. So let me give you some examples of this though. One really good example is one of my assistants. We were traveling around and he knew he needed to get in the gym. But instead of going out and just doing whatever workouts he could while we were traveling and didn't have a gym membership, he was like, well, I'm just going to wait until I get settled somewhere and I can get a gym membership, and that way my training will be efficient. I don't want to waste time with like this inefficient training. But what's happening in fact is the more he doesn't train, the more he's getting further out of shape, and it's going to make all that training when he actually does get to the gym actually take longer and hurt more and be more difficult, and that habit will not have been formed. And in fact, if anything, he's forming the habit over a longer period of time of not going to the gym, which only makes things harder, right? And that's kind of what happens in all areas of life. In game, it can be things like, I'll go out and get good at game once I get my money handled and once I have a good location I can pull girls to. Or maybe like, I'm a little overweight, so let me get in the gym first, and then once I'm fit, once I have a six-pack, then I'll go game. And the funny thing is, if you were learning game the whole time, you'd actually still be much better off. Basically, I think there were three major reasons for this. The first reason is what I like to call inertia. Inertia basically means you're sitting in a particular situation in life, and your body doesn't feel physical pain at that moment, right? So you should go out and talk to a girl, but there's no physical, tangible pain at that moment saying it. So the easiest thing for your body to do, the least risky thing for your body to do, is just stay there in that state of no pain. Because if you were to go out, you would be actually risking pain. You would be actually risking rejection, risking failure, that kind of stuff. And so your body's inertia says, okay, well, this situation I'm in is not bad, so let's just stick with the known not bad. Right? And that's a very common human impulse. Like, they're basically two common impulses: seek pleasure and avoid pain. And this whole inertia thing is basically doing a perfect job of avoiding pain. And then what happens is actually this emotional inertia becomes physical inertia, like literally in the sense of what inertia means in physics. Because what happens is your brain is actually forming connections, and the more often those connections are being used, those are habits, it becomes harder and harder for you to even break them. So the longer you haven't gone to the gym, or the more you've established the habit that when you see a hot girl, you don't approach her, those synapses are programmed into your brain. It becomes harder and harder to unprogram them and reprogram. So this like emotional inertia gets you started, and eventually it becomes a habit, which creates actual physical inertia. So your brain is actually being rewired against yourself. So that's the first one, which is inertia. The second one is fear of failure. Fear of failure. It's very easy when you go out or when you take a risk, like you try and go to the gym and try and get in shape. What if you go to the gym and put in all that effort and then your body doesn't change much, you don't get in shape? That hurts, that's painful. Or what if you decide to go out and go talk to girls and then you get a bunch of rejections, you don't get a lot of success. Now you put in all this time and effort, and that's painful. It's painful in the rejections themselves, but even beyond that, it's painful in terms of the self-esteem. It's painful in terms of the fact that like you have a certain image of yourself and you're putting that image under threat. And nobody wants to do that. But the third factor that holds people back, and the interesting thing about this one is it actually makes the other two worse, and it's the one that's most easily correctable, is confusion. I think a lot of people just don't know what to do, and that's what holds them back. I mean, they may know vaguely, but they don't know specifically, and that's a problem. A great example of this is take a guy who's about 300 pounds overweight. He's never been to the gym in his life. He knows he needs to go to the gym. It's not a mystery to him that he does. But when you say go to the gym, he doesn't even exactly know what that means. Should he join a yoga gym, a Pilates gym, a weight gym? Should he do cardio? He's never done it before. He doesn't know. And he doesn't want to go do it wrong. And so it's very easy for him to make the excuse of, I'll just read some books eventually and figure it out. Or, I'm just easing into it by doing something really, really light. I'm changing this one little thing and at least I'll make some progress. Because he doesn't know, it's very easy for him to put it in the back of his mind, for him to convince himself that the situation's not right now. Whereas if he did know, i.e. if he had a trainer who he believed in, or if he had a book that he'd read that he really bought into, something like that, he wouldn't have that excuse anymore, and you'd see much more from him. And that's the thing I want to really focus on right now, is when you have a plan instead of having confusion, it helps with all these different factors at once, and it kind of brings it together so that instead of having a negative spiral where you have this sort of like you want to avoid pain and then you choose to avoid pain and then it hurts your self-esteem, and that creates a situation where you feel even less confident you'll succeed, and so then you feel even more inclined to avoid pain. You get this downward spiral. Once you have some knowledge and you take action, now you're going to start an upward spiral, which is, I didn't know exactly what I was doing, but I had some kind of plan. I did something. Now I feel better about myself. I feel more confident that the next step will be positive and make me feel better about myself, so that I'm more willing to take that next step. Now I build more self-esteem, and then you get into an upward spiral. And that's what I want to create with you. And that brings us to the exercise. And the exercise is this. I want you right now to think about the one thing that you most need to do that you've been putting off. It can be something in game, it can be something with your health, it can be something with your school or your work. What is the thing that you've been procrastinating and putting off that you really, really know you should have been doing? Take a minute, actually, and think about that. You can even write it down if you want. I'll give you just a second to do that. Okay, we're back. Now that you have that thing, that may seem like a big, even insurmountable task. And that's probably a big reason why you haven't done it. Like if it's something you could have done in 5 minutes, you probably would have done it by now. And that's the issue. You look at it and it's this like gargantuan thing where you feel like even if you do work on it, you won't really have dented it. You won't really have made progress. And so what's the point? So now what I want you to do is take that task and I want you to break it down into literally as many tiny tasks as you can. Like you could break it down even to the level, if it's like you need to fill out a form, take a pencil out of the desk, put the paper in front of you, fill out the form. Break it down to like truly, truly minuscule micro tasks, okay? Tasks that are all very, very, very achievable. No task should take, at least initially, should take more than an hour. Ideally, no task should take more than 15 minutes. Break it down to super, super micro tasks. If the tasks do seem insurmountable, one of the tasks can be do 15 minutes work on bigger task. Okay, so break it down to truly doable, truly surmountable tasks so that you can create successes along the way. Go ahead and do that right now. Okay, now finally, you've done that. You've decided what your goal is. You've broken it down to specific, discrete tasks that are very attainable. Now your job is, the second that you finish with this video, the second you finish, like literally you hit the stop button and you do this with your next breath, you have to do one thing related to getting that done. You have to take the first action, because if you don't, if you sit around and allow yourself to procrastinate, you're going to continue with that inertia. You're going to build, especially right now, probably negative self-esteem. You'll be like, fuck, Todd told me to do it and I didn't even do it. No, not that. Todd told me to do it. I was man enough. I stepped up and I did it. You're going to start building that positive spiral of positive self-esteem and really hitting it, okay? So as soon as you hit stop on this video, you need to start that task, all right? And this is what you do with these kind of things at all times. Take one action, one right action, even if it's the smallest possible action. It's all about the direction you're moving in. Are you creating an upward spiral in your life, or are you creating a downward spiral in your life? Anytime you notice a downward spiral, don't get angry at yourself, because that's just more low self-esteem. Just cut it off. Just be like, wow, that's interesting. I had a negative spiral. Interesting to note. Okay, now what's one positive action I can take? Don't judge the past. Just do the best thing you can in the present. And with that said, I want you to, in a second, stop the video and do one thing on that task you know you should do. See you next time.